episode of TB Speaks. Actually, it's the first ever episode of TB Speaks. This is a podcast where we are going to be talking about different areas of leadership. And basically at this organization, our plan, our goal is to aim to make a difference in people's lives on purpose. And so we talk about all sorts of different things related to organizational culture, the health of an organization, how it impacts our employees. But then we also talk about things like professional development, personal development, and then how as individuals we take the things that are important to us and we invest in those so that we can go and do what's most important, which is to make people's lives better, to help others reach their full potential. And so one of the ways that we do that is to make sure that we have what we refer to as 360 degrees of health. So we want to enjoy our day at work. We want to enjoy our time at home. And so for this inaugural or kickoff episode of the podcast, I wanted to bring in my best friend, has been my best friend for some 30 years now, and my beautiful and amazing wife, Miss Kimberly Bolduc. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you? You excited?
Oh, yes.
You amped up for this thing?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I've had to talk her into it. It took me about a day to talk her into it, but I wanted Kim to come in and sit down and talk about it. So most of you know that my job is to be the city manager for the city of Crestview. And so the job is pretty demanding. We stay very, very busy dealing with things that come up and then trying to develop people and things like that. And so for you and for my spouse, it also puts some pressure on her as well. And so I wanted us to get together and talk about how do you stay in a good, healthy relationship when one or both of you are either in the public eye or in a place where there's a constant demand. And so that's going to be kind of what we talk about today. But before we do that, I want everybody to get a chance to know this amazing individual. And so tell us, baby, a little bit about yourself.
Born and raised, I'm from Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
Right.
Went to Choctaw High School.
Uh-oh.
Go Big Green.
Yeah, I was a Viking.
Mm-hmm. Our kids, one went to Choctaw, one went to Fort Walton to make it equal.
Right.
So there was no.
So is that did we plan that? We kind of did.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was only fair.
I think it's like a case study in who's going to turn out better. One went to Choctaw, one went to Fort Walton. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So, but you said 2 kids, so let's
Two
talk
kids.
about that. So
our oldest is 26. She's married. She married into military.
Yep.
We have a grandbaby. And
she's amazing.
Yes, she is.
I tell people all the time, if I could, I would skip the kid part and jump to the grandkid part.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And our youngest, Leah, is 22, and she just got married a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we have an instant grandkid.
Right. Grandson, Parker.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we got a granddaughter now, and we've got now a grandson, and which I'm excited about. Obviously, both of them. I'm excited about this idea of having a grandson because I grew up with 4 sisters and a brother, but my brother had already moved on. And then I had 2 daughters, and so I've got a lot of estrogen in my life, and so I'm looking forward to some testosterone, hang out, go fishing, right? No, we love it. We're excited. So we've had over the course of our lives together, so we've been together how long, we said?
Be married 30 years next year.
Right.
But we've been together over 30 years.
Yeah, we knew each other for a couple years.
30 years,
Yeah, I tricked you early and decided to get married as fast as possible. You were older than I am. I like to tell that story. It's hard to tell because I am the one with all the gray hair, right? But we got married early, had kids early, and so now we're free, somewhat, right?
Empty nest.
Empty nest in it. And so, but over the course of our lives together, we've owned several businesses. We've owned construction companies, cleaning companies, and then worked this almost last 20 years I've worked in local government. And we always have something going on, some sort of entrepreneurial itch being scratched somewhere, some sort of something going on, which you always love when I get into a new adventure.
Yes.
Is that true?
Oh, yes.
You're just supportive. But anyway, so from all of those things, we've been partners side by side throughout all of it. And so I wanted to talk with you and let you get a chance to talk about, how is it that we or anybody can be at this stage with all this stuff going on? We've got our kids have moved out, and we're, some of our friends worry about it, right? They say, your kids are gonna when what are you gonna do when your kids are gone, right? Empty nest, and you can see this fear on their face. And we're kind of, what's our attitude about it?
We're fine.
We're fine. We're looking forward to it, right? People say, what are you going to do when your kids are gone? What do we say?
Whatever we want.
Whatever we want. Whenever we want. Wearing whatever we want. And so, but it's always interesting to me, and you too, I think, when they look at us and they're like, well, how is that possible? And so, what would you say to people if you want to make sure that you can stay engaged in the marriage and happy to be together? How do you do that with kids? Like that's one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Well, one thing, we never put our kids the center of our marriage. Right. Because, yeah, I know, but that's the truth. So we allowed our kids to do what they wanted. If dance, music, soccer, whatever, we were always there, put them in it or whatever. But we always still put time aside to have one-on-one time, right? Because it's important. Because at the end of the day, what some parents don't get is that they will move out and move on.
That's right.
And so it's important to stay engaged in your marriage, right? Have one-on-one time and not 100% on your kids.
Yeah, it gets so easy, especially nowadays, right? With social media, not that it's bad, we're going to put this on social media, but social media, and our kids are growing up in this environment where they feel like they have to be the center of attention all the time. And so I think as parents, sometimes we make that worse by doing that. And so we were very intentional about making sure they had experiences, making sure they had obviously a good place to live, but also making sure that we set our side of time, our set apart our time to spend together. That didn't control the calendar. And you were a stay-at-home mom for a large portion of it, not the whole time.
Right, until they were able to go to pre-K, until they were once they were potty trained, then I went back to work. Yes.
Right, and so we were blessed to be able to do that. You actually went to college before I did. I didn't go until much later in life. But you were in school when we met, you were in school when we got married, and then got pregnant. Yeah. And so you decided to get out for a little while. And then what happened?
Then I went back.
Went back to school, and what happened?
Got pregnant again.
So we decided that, I think at that point, you were like, listen, this is...
I don't know if this is
one form of birth control. Yeah. We're not going back to school.
Yeah, no.
No, so you had gone Northwest Florida State College and was kind of working towards like being a paralegal is where you had originally planned. Yep. But instead you got stuck dealing with me most of the time. Yeah. Which everybody asks you, how on earth do you put up with him? And what do you always?
He's met his match.
That's right. That's exactly right. So we're able to do that, and we're able to stay home with the kids. And so when people ask me a lot of the time, hey, or we talk about work-life balance and the need to be able to keep some sort of balance between the pressures of work and then having an enjoyable life at home, providing for the family emotionally, providing for the kids emotionally. How do we do that? What I always tell people, and I want you to correct me if this is wrong, but I always tell people that you just have to be really intentional about the time you do have together. Like, what are some of the things we did to make sure that we didn't struggle in that area?
As far as spending time together,
yes.
Being intentional, we just made sure that we set a time. I mean, we knew your schedule, would go over your schedule and say, okay, well, after this, then we're gonna, let's go on a mini vacation or.
Right. Always looking for something to look forward to.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Share a little bit about that, because this is something that you taught me about the need to always have something to look forward to. Share a little bit about that.
Well, yes, because I think it's important, because it can, it makes you know that there's going to be an end to one part and then a happy moment in another part. So
right. So instead of just getting so stuck in the drudgery of every day, it's this opportunity or something to look forward to.
Well, it's like, for instance, during the holidays, from Thanksgiving all the way to the very end of, to New Year's, really.
Right.
It's the schedule is, and I'm sure this is for everybody, but our schedule is it's almost every single day. Literally, that is no joke. There's
day.
Every single day. But the way I look at it, because usually after the first of the year, we go on a little, mini vacation and just, breathe everything. That's done. It's over.
Yep.
So
yeah, we actually, this last year, we set aside a time to go for a few days, just the two of us, to really kind of plan on what were our goals spiritually, what were our goals professionally, what did we want to do for a living, do I want to continue to do this, what did you want to do as we were coming into this empty nest period, and then what from a health perspective, right? And we decided we were tired of being fat. That was right, and so we really swapped up the diet, and then we decided that I have more work to do where I'm at, and so we're going to continue to push there for good things here at the City of Crestview, and then spiritually we just continue to stay engaged in church, and it's a big part of who we are is as well. So but setting aside those times to or creating something to look forward to, and then making something intentional about it, right? That was probably one of our best vacations, I think, because it was just us thinking about what are we going to do, and where do we want to. We talk about like quality time is an important component in your overall mental health and your balance, your work-life balance. I heard somebody say one time that good work-life balance is when you look forward to going to work in the morning and you look forward to going home. Well, if you're going to be able to do that, looking forward to going home, you have to invest in this part, your home time, your relationship at home, as much as people invest in their skills to go do their job. And sometimes we don't do that. Sometimes we go to college, or at one point in our lives, we owned a cleaning company. I was a public works director. I was going to college. We had all of these things going, and kids were growing up.
Yes.
My mother was sick, had Alzheimer's at the time. And so figuring out how you have to be intentional, though, about, you're doing all that professional development and advancement at work. You got to put time here at home and in this relationship. And so we do that by talking about it, right? Like, what's important to you? I can't work late all week and then say, you know what, I'm going to make it up to you by spending time with you. Come go fishing with me. How would that go?
Not well.
Right. So what do we do? So how do we do different?
We compromise.
Right. Talk about it.
Yes.
You said earlier communication. Tease that out a little bit. What do you mean by communication is important?
Well,
because everybody just says that. So what do you mean?
Well, it is, because regardless, you need to be able to communicate about everything, even arguments. Right. So if you've had a bad day, I need to be able to listen to you, and then we can talk it out and maybe help you to feel better. Or if I've had a bad day, you've had a bad day, we're both frustrated. The communication is important as far as words, because you've got to be careful as far as what words are used, because words hurt. Yeah, be careful in the words that you use. Be intentional to not be mean. Yes.
Right?
Because it's just going to make it worse.
Which I'm not mean.
Yeah.
People think I'm mean.
Okay.
No, I might be mean sometimes. Let's talk about that, right? So, can't take it back. So we also, one of the things that we talk about whenever somebody asks about, communication in marriage, we always say you got to fight well. Right. So that means kind of what you were just saying.
Yes.
Right? Explain that a little bit more. So what does it mean to fight well? You're going to fight. So how do you do it well?
Well, with words, you're very careful as far as your words. You don't be hateful. And it's hard. That's very hard, especially when you're frustrated and the other one's not understanding, your frustrations.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so important. And we learned this over the years, but that you don't take a 5 or 10 minute argument and turn it into a lifetime of pain.
Yeah.
By the things that we say and the things that we do. And then we, have made a commitment to each other 30 years ago that we would be the most important, other than God.
Yes.
That's our most important. But that we would put each other first. And we did that when it came to family and everything else.
Yeah.
And so that part's kind of cool. Well, one of the things I always like to talk about whenever I have a pod, so I have a couple of different podcasts I get to be a part of. Sometimes I get invited to others, but then we do one at the city. It's called Crestview Leads. If you haven't seen that one, you should check it out. It's on all of the podcast platforms, and it's about leadership, all different types of leadership topics, and it's people who I've brought in that have had some influence in my life in the area of leadership. But I always ask them this question, so I'm going to ask you the same one, and it's this: if you were put on the spot and you had to think about somebody who influenced your life, somebody you looked up to, somebody that you wanted to try to be like in some way, who is that, and then why?
It would be Irene Bolduc, who is your mother.
Right.
Because she was the most positive person I've ever met.
She was a mess.
Yes.
My mother was a mess.
Well, she was fun to hang out with too.
Yeah, she was
but no matter what, whether good or bad, she was just a very positive person about life in general.
Right.
Yeah. So, and her love for, God and everything, it was, she never, to her last breath, just never, that was always
what was most
important. Yes, what was always most important to her.
Unconditional
love.
Oh,
definitely unconditional love.
Very cool, very cool. Well, that's been fun. So we talked a little bit about work-life balance. We talked about communicating. One of the things I did want to cover too, though, that I almost let you get out of here without covering is, so when you're in a relationship, like when a marriage or whatever, and one party, myself in this particular case, is kind of in the public eye all the time, and constantly gets. So one of the things that happens to me, obviously, is everybody's an expert in what I do except for me. Right. And with Facebook, it empowers all of these different people to think they have a voice in that area. And so what do you do? What advice would you give to, because you're fiercely protective of me and the girls and now the grandbabies. But if you're fiercely protective of somebody and they're in the public eye and people say bad things about them, what advice would you give to somebody else about how do you get past that? How does it not affect you, or does it affect you?
Well, it does affect me, but I'm human. But first of all, I don't get on Crestview word of mouth. So there's that.
Call them out specifically.
Yes. But, because there's too many opinions. But my thing is, it used to really bother me, especially when we first started but it doesn't, because you have to just know that, like, I know the truth, you know the truth, and at the end of the day, if it's someone we don't know, right, which are most of them, right, they don't know you, they don't know me. They don't have anything. No, and honestly, all that matters is, I know the truth, and God's the only one that I have to answer to. So,
right,
or,
certainly not me.
Right. So
no, that's good. That's good. So we don't. The way we put it a lot of the times too is that we just don't allow people to speak into our lives if they're not in a place we want to be.
Yeah.
So like, how I would explain that is that if somebody is sitting at their house and they're typing on their keyboard with all their negative comments, which should come right about this point of the podcast, they'll start putting their negative comments in. But if they do that, then they don't get, if that's the pinnacle that they've reached, they're sitting on their mom's couch, right, or clicking on their keyboard, I don't worry about what they have to say because they're not in a place I want to be. Yeah. If it's somebody who I respect, somebody I look up to, somebody who has been honoring, then I definitely care and what they have to say. But if they're just there so that they can, get out into the ether and somebody can hear them, then that's just the way.
Well, I think the ones that matter would not put anything out there. They would come to talk to us or whatever. So
for sure.
There's a difference in the type.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's been fun. We're just about out of time. I'm so pleased you made it through it. We won't tell everybody that the first couple of times I tried to record it, I messed up the recording part of it, but that's all right. So we appreciate you checking us out on TV Speaks. Check us out on all of the different podcast platforms. It's available there as well. Like it, share it, tell your friends about it, and we look forward to the opportunity to continue to put some material out there. We're going to really start digging into, like, how do we evaluate ourselves professionally? so that we can determine whether or not the way we conduct ourselves at work is helping others reach their full potential. Because here at TB Speaks, our aim is to make a difference on purpose. We want to help people to reach their full potential and to make a difference. We believe we were created for a purpose, and we try our best to fulfill that purpose each and every day. And so thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.